If you're turning your compost, then you're probably working too hard. Today I have 6 low work, no turn composting options to hopefully simplify composting for you forever. Let's get after it. Option number 1, the traditional by the book Johnson-Su bioreactor. Now I understand that somebody out there is going to tell me why this isn't exactly a Johnson-Su bioreactor down to the millimeter, but it's pretty close. This bioreactor has a 44-inch diameter outer ring. It's sitting on a pallet for aeration, and it was filled with 6 temporary air tubes that provided passive ventilation. Those tubes were later removed and worms were added to the system. The materials all break down over time in an environment that encourages fungal growth and diversity. One commonality between this reactor and all the reactors that you're going to see is you can fill them with whatever type of organic matter that you'd like. From garden waste to straw to manure to grass clippings to leaves to wood chips. While you can fill these reactors gradually, it's best to fill them all at once. Option number 2 is the Johnson-Su-inspired bioreactor minus the center air tubes. This has a 44-inch diameter outer ring. It's sitting on a pallet. The difference between this reactor and a traditional reactor is I filled it without adding the central air tubes. Later, worms were added, and here it sits passively composting in place. So why no air tubes? Great question. The main reason I didn't add air tubes to this reactor is I wasn't actually sure that they were needed. This pile is getting air from all sides. 360 degrees around this circle, you're getting air penetration through the landscape fabric. You're also getting it through the bottom of the pallet and through the top. There's a lot of surface area of this pile actually exposed to air. Now it's a 44-inch diameter circle. Air can only penetrate so deep into the pile, so maybe that central core actually goes anaerobic, but I'm not so sure it does, because you have large particle sizes in the form of wood chips in there providing airspace, and you also have worms in the system. And what do worms do to soil? They open it up, they create tunnels, they allow air to flow through it. So I think worms are providing a lot of aeration to the pile. Another great benefit of not having the air pipes in the pile when you fill it is they are a pain to work with. It's a pain to fill the pile with those air tubes in it, and I've also found it very problematic to water the pile with 6 vertical holes throughout the pile. When you put water on top, a lot of times it just wants to run into those holes and it goes straight through the whole pile and out the bottom of the pallet. Having a nice flat surface on top of the pile will make watering easier and hopefully make the moisture content in the pile a little bit more uniform. Will this work? We'll see. It's a test in progress. I know the purists would hate this because it's not exactly what Dr. David Johnson did, but you got to start somewhere. If you want to find new results, then you got to try new things. Option number 3, a Johnson-Su-inspired bioreactor with 1 central air pipe. Instead of the 6 central air pipes that you'd have in a traditional Johnson-Su bioreactor that are spread out uniformly across the surface area of the cylinder, this one has 1 single air pipe in the center of it. And it's not just 1 single air pipe, it's actually 3 of the pipes that would be in a Johnson-Su bioreactor taped together all in 1 unit, and those 3 make up the single central air venting in this reactor. Other than the single pipe, this is the exact same as the Johnson-Su bioreactor, filled all at one time, 44-inch diameter outer ring, it's sitting on a pallet, worms were added to the system, so we're gonna see, how does just 1 air pipe allow this system to work? Why just 1 air pipe? It takes away some of the problem of having 6 holes in the pile. Watering is going to be easier, filling is going to be easier. It also maybe solves some of the problems of this reactor, which has no pipes in it. If enough air isn't getting into this pile, well then maybe adding 1 central larger air tube into this reactor will allow air to get to that center, which otherwise might have gone anaerobic. So yes, this is a work in progress. We'll see how it works, but I think it's going to work. Option number 4 is a Johnson-Su-inspired bioreactor, no pallet. Everything else is the same. 44-inch diameter outer ring, no pallet, filled with 6 central air pipes, later removed after filling and worms were added to the system. Why no pallet? My theory is that by allowing the bioreactor to sit directly on the ground, you're allowing microbes in the soil to make direct contact with the organic matter that you're trying to compost. So any organisms that you might want to have help break down your organic matter in the reactor can have access to the reactor directly via organic matter soil interface. Worms, other organisms can go from the soil directly into the contents of the pile and start breaking it down. That's potentially a big benefit because now you don't have to add worms to the system. Worms are finding the system along with fungi, bacteria, and other organisms. Will this help the results? We'll see. One critique of not having the pallet is you're sacrificing airflow for biology. Since the pile isn't raised off the ground, it doesn't have that air below it to pull from, hence no drafting effect. Is sacrificing airflow for that biological interface worth it? I'm not sure. Results are TBD. My gut says it'll be fine because the pile has a lot of air coming into it through the outside landscape fabric and also through the top of the pile, and you also have worms in there helping aerate the system. So I don't know how necessary it is to have to be on a pallet, but results will come later down the line. Option number 5 is the Diego double ring reactor, aka blue steel, aka Magnum, aka the device for people who can't compost good. Now this reactor is much different than a traditional Johnson-Su bioreactor in terms of function and size. For one, it's a lot bigger. We have a 6-foot diameter outer ring with a 2-foot diameter central inner ring. These rings are enclosed by just chicken wire, giving you a lot of airflow in a plastic-free design. This pile is sitting directly on the ground to allow worms direct access to the organic matter, but worms also were added to the top surface to help speed up the composting. One of the big concerns that people have with this system is this outer mesh. They think it's going to really cause the pile to dry out, and that hasn't been my experience at all. Now, I don't think the design of any of these reactors really has a lot to do with the moisture level inside them. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think moisture level is more aligned with the materials that you have in the reactor than it is with the design of the reactor. What do I mean by that? Manure is going to hold a lot more moisture than wood chips, so if you fill a reactor with manure, it's going to hold a lot of water compared to the same reactor filled with just wood chips. So moisture wasn't a concern. The contents in here are moist, and moisture is the essence of wetness. Another concern about this reactor was airflow, and you might say, how is airflow actually a concern? Look at how open it is. Well, people were worried that having it directly sit on the ground, you weren't getting that drafting effect up through the bottom of the pile. How much of an effect has that had? Well, I don't know. You be the judge. This reactor started out full right to here, and now we're way down here off camera. It sunk about halfway. So do you think lack of airflow has actually been a problem in the decomposition process, or has this actually worked? You know, I'm not actually a scientist, but I do have eyes, and just looking at these results, I would say, that looks like it worked. Option number 6, a mini double ring type reactor. What we have here is a single outer ring creating a 36-inch diameter. Why 36-inch diameter? Well, I had a piece of leftover scrap fence, and it just happened to make a 36-inch diameter circle, so that's what I went with. The pile is passively aerated through the outer ring of the pile and through the single central air tube, which will be removed shortly after filling. This reactor also has full ground contact. It's not sitting on the pallet because we want that biological interaction between soil and organic matter in the pile. One unique thing I'm doing with this reactor itself is I'm not adding worms to it. I'm gonna just let this sit, and at the end, we'll look at the results and we'll see how many worms are in this pile solely through them choosing to be in the pile. They can migrate up through the bottom if they want to. If I added worms, that would screw it up because I put the worms in the pile. We're gonna see if worms actually choose to live in this, helping to break it down so we can get some sense of how well does reactor ground contact actually work. That actually sounds smart. One thing I love about this design is it's simple and easy, and it should be replicable anywhere around the world. Most people can get a piece of scrap fence and they can get some sort of pipe to put in the center. If they can't get a pipe, you could even put a log in the center while you fill it and then later remove that log, leaving the void to provide airflow. Those are 6 low work, no turn, Johnson-Su-inspired composting options for you. But I got a little surprise. I actually have a 7th option. And some of you aren't gonna be able to handle this option, but not for the reason that you might expect. Are you ready? Option number 7 is what I call the duh method. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take a bunch of organic matter. You're gonna pile it up on the ground. And then you're gonna stick a few pipes or logs or bars or pieces of wood in it vertically. And then you're gonna water it, and then you're gonna pull those pipes out and walk away and keep it moist. And guess what? Over time, it's gonna break down and turn into compost. Mind blown, I know. If you just pile stuff up on the ground, provide air, provide water, it'll break down. Now I know I'm talking loco to some of you right now, and I like it. Zoolander reference. You don't need fancy rings. You don't need pallets. You don't need to overthink this. This is all fun and good, and maybe it makes great compost. But guess what? There are a lot of ways to make great compost. So of all 7 of these options, which one's the best? I got a little secret. Nobody actually knows. I don't even know. Dr. David Johnson doesn't know either. Or you don't know either. The one writing all those comments below. You don't know which one's best. You don't have a lab. So don't tell me you know. What? No, he didn't just say that. That mother. Oh my God. What the? Dear Diego, you are wrong. And here's why. All of the Johnson-Su purists are screaming at me right now saying, Dr. David Johnson said do it this way, and you're not doing it that way. You effed it up. Stop doing that and stop telling people to do it the wrong way. Well, all you purists, I'm inviting you to step out of the box or reactor and actually do some independent thinking and think on your own. And I actually think Dr. David Johnson would encourage that. I think he would applaud that. There isn't just one right way to do this. There are a lot of variables involved here. Climate, materials, what you have available, how much water access you have, how quick you're trying to get compost, what texture of compost you're trying to make. There isn't a one fits all recipe. This is not picking up a box of your favorite cake mix at the grocery store and cooking it in Antarctica, Alaska, San Diego, Madrid, Spain, and Australia, where you're going to get the same results every time. If we were going to do the same composting process in all those locations, we'd probably all get different results, and we should expect that. Yet the purists say, well, there's one way to do this. They are imposing the solution, not arriving at the solution. Shame on you. Nobody knows which one is the best, and the best is even a hard thing to answer. What does best mean? Best texture, the best to grow plants, the nicest looking? Are you looking for some sort of magical ratio if we put this under an electron scanning microscope? Like, do you need a certain fungal to bacteria ratio? And if yes, why do you know that that's best? Do you need a certain number of microorganisms in here? Do you need a certain texture of the pile? Like, what is the best? So when people say that they make the best compost or one method makes the best compost, you should be asking them, how are you defining best? Because best is really best for you. Best for you, your materials that you have access to, and your location. So find the system that works and resonates with you and go with that. You'll be fine at the end of the day. You're not gonna screw it up. Nature does most of the work here. In fact, nature really does all the work here. Organic matter in, organic matter concentrated out. It's easy. So get composting, Thanks for watching, and until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.